Hello everyone. Welcome to Dr. Rajkumar Academy for Civil Services. Let us discuss today the Hindu newspaper of Delhi edition. The first article that we are going to discuss related to the governor's decision to call floor test wrong, said by Supreme Court. So court effectively opens door for disqualification of Shinde camp, but says Maharashtra governor was justified in inviting him to form the government as Thackeray quit voluntarily before the trust vote. This particular issue comes under your General Studies paper 2 under Indian polity and constitution about the state legislature structure and functioning. So here Maharashtra come under the political crisis which continues to play out here with the Shiv Sena headed for a split and chief minister possibly losing majority. So the governor's power under the constitution to call for a floor test takes center stage. That is the exact context of this particular article. Let us have a brief look regarding this particular article. Remember, a governor of state is a person who acts as a executive head. So he is a executive head of the government, particularly in the terms of state. Just like the president who acts as the executive head of India. Similar to having a governor for every state in India, which was comes under the provision Article 153 of the Indian Constitution. There is a lieutenant governor for Union Territories of India. So the governor is a nominal head of the state. So he is appointed for a term of 5 years by the President of India. So governor appointed by the president. So what are all the powers of governor in terms of the councils of ministers? We do have a different articles here. First article 154 of the Indian Constitution says that which the governor can hold the executive power of the state. And article 163 which says about councils of ministers to aid and advise governors. So councils of ministers to provide support to the governor. That comes under article 163. Then article 164 clause 1 which says that the chief minister is appointed by the governor, CM, as well as the other ministers appointed by the governor, particularly chief ministers in terms of appointed by the governor. Other ministers were appointed by the governor on the advice of chief minister. So these are all the major powers of governors which are with councils of ministers. So in this particular article, there was a term which is known as floor test. What is meant by this floor test? Floor test. It's a motion through which the government seeks to know whether it still enjoy the confidence of legislature. We can say it is confidence of legislature. In this procedure, a chief minister appointed by the governor can be asked to prove the majority of his party on the floor of the legislative assembly of the particular state. This is what the exact definition of the floor test. So the chief minister has to move a vote of confidence and win a majority among those present and voting. The chief minister has to resign if the confidence motion fails to pass. When the house is in session, it is the speaker who can call for a floor test. But when the assembly is not in the session, the governor residuary powers under article 163 allow him to call for a floor test. So even governor also have the power to call the floor test if the session is not there in the state legislative assembly. Right. So composite floor test. This is conducted only when more than one person stake a claim to form the government in the state. The governor may call for a special session to see who has the majority there. Based on those people who present in the assembly and voting. Right. So pro tem speaker is appointed ahead of the floor test. Usually, the longest serving House member is nominated as a pro term speaker, whose role is limited to administering oath to new MLAs and conducting the election of full time speaker. Broadly, there are three kinds of voting system that are involved in the floor test. One is ballot vote, another one is voice vote, another one is division vote. These are all the three important voting system when the floor test conducted by the governor. Ballot vote means it's a secret voting in a ballot box. This system is similar to voting in election of the parliament. Voice vote means in this particular method, oral votes are taken by present legislatures. Division vote means voting in this method is done through electronic gadgets or slips. Right. So these are all the major information that you need to gather from this particular article regarding the background of the governor's decision to call floor test. So whatever the context here in this particular article, Maharashtra governor took a decision to call floor test wrong, which said by Supreme Court of India. The court said that governor was right in inviting Mr. Shinde to form the new government as Thackeray had resigned before the floor test. This means the Shinde government will continue in power for now. There is no need of floor test, but it was conducted. It's a wrong decision by the governor. That is a rule out by the Supreme Court. So you can refer SR Bommaya case. SR Bommai case in the year of 1994, and also 2020, the Supreme Court in Shivraj Singh Chauhan versus the Speaker, Madhya Pradesh Legislative Assembly. So these are all the reference judgments that you can take a reference for your governor's decision to call floor test. That's all about this article. Let us move to the next important article of the day, which is related to the control over the offices by Delhi government or the governor. So Delhi government on control over the services. In a blow to the center, the Supreme Court gave a Delhi government power to make laws and wield control over the bureaucrats, deputed to its departments while declaring that civil service officers are politically neutral professionals who serve the people and not the parties. This is the observation said by the Supreme Court of India related to the Delhi government and the control over the offices. This particular article comes under your GS2 Indian Constitution, that is cooperative federalism. In this article that we are going to discuss about, the dispute happened between the center versus Delhi government on control over the services. Let us have a brief look of this particular article. Remember, a five-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court hearing the Supreme Court, five-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court is hearing the dispute between Delhi government and also the control over administrative services. Almost 5 years ago, another constitution bench had ruled in favor of state government related to this kind of tussle. So we need to understand the judgment timeline. 2017, there was a judgment. The Delhi court had, in its judgment, held that for administrative purpose of the National Capital Territory, the Lieutenant Governor is not bound by the aid and advice of the councils of ministers in every matter. 2018 also one more judgment, that is Lieutenant Governor of Delhi is bound by the aid and advice by the elected government. 2019 judgment. Supreme Court delivered a split verdict on the questions related to the power of the government of National Capital Territory of Delhi and Union government over services and referred the matter to a three-judge bench. 2022, a center on 27th April sought a reference to a larger bench that it needed the power to make transfer and postings of officers in Delhi. Right, this particular problem comes under the control over the offices. So now, what are all the arguments and counter arguments in the issue? See, the arguments for the center has consistently maintained that because Delhi is the national capital and face of the country, it must have control over the administrative services, which include appointments and transfers. Remember, the center government is telling that Delhi is the capital of India, and in matter of appointments and transfers of the bureaucrats who used to have the power center. This is the argument from the center side. The counter argument from the Delhi government had argued that in the interest of federalism, the elected representatives must have power over transfers and postings of the civil services. Right, the Delhi government had also contended that the recent amendments to the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Act 2021 violate the doctrine of the basic structure of the constitution. So, the new governance model, the status of Delhi being a union territory under Schedule 1 of the Indian Constitution, but the National Capital Territory under Article 239 AA. So, 69th Amendment to the Constitution of India inserted this Article 239 AA, which declared Union Territory of Delhi to be administered by a Lieutenant Governor who work and aid by the elected legislative assembly members. This is what the exact concern. But as per this particular article, what exactly the ruled out by the Supreme Court, Delhi government has control over the officers, says Supreme Court, not the center government. So a constitution bench headed by the Chief Justice of India reiterated that National Capital Territory of Delhi would not have power to legislate on public order, police and land. The legislative and executive power of NCTT over entry 41 shall not extended over the services related to public order, police and land. Remember, this particular article is talking about the cadre officers to get into the transfers or any appointments. So now, as of the Supreme Court judgment says that who has more power in terms of handling the government offices? Delhi government, not the center. That's about this particular article. Next important article that we are going to discuss under your editorial page. So directly we can go to the editorial page. The article is related to our India's alignment policy. The problem with India's multi-alignment stand. Topic comes under GS2 international relations. International relations. The effects of policies and policies of countries on India's interest, grouping and agreements, we can say non-alignment, movement, all these things comes under this particular topic. Remember, China's recent mediation efforts to resolve the Ukraine crisis have once again spotlighted India's approach to the conflict resolution. By holding this NATO eastward expansion responsible for the instigating the war, by painting America as the biggest obstacle to ceasefire. So this particular article is stating about the problem with India's multi-alignment stand. To understand this, we need to know about from the non-alignment movement to multi-alignment of India. So what is the exact stand? We know very well about the non-alignment, how India comes under the non-alignment. It was created during the time of collapse of the colonial. Yes, particularly the non-alignment movement from the African continent, Asian continent, and Latin America after the collapse of the colonial rule, this non-alignment movement came into existence. During the 19 47, after independence of India, India is a young nation. During that time, Cold War was prevailed all over the world, USA and USSR, two power blocks. So India refused to join here and they come up with non-alignment along with Africa, Asia and Latin America, which is known as non-alignment movement. 1960, around 17 new African and Asian members become the members of this non-alignment movement. Okay, so the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was the person who promoted the concept of non-alignment, which is known as Third World, under the Bandung Conference of 1955. This is the background history of non-alignment movement. So now, what is multi-alignment approach? This multi-alignment approach is also we need to understand here. See, the multi-alignment approach. It is a series of parallel relationship which strengthening the multilateral partnership and seeks a common approach among the grouping towards security, economic equity, and elimination of existing dangers like terrorism. Right? So, below are a few forums where India's multi-alignment approach is clearly evident. So, what are all the things comes under below? One is INSTC, that is International North-South Transport Corridor, at 2000 like 7,200 kilometer multimodal transport corridor, combining the road, rail, and maritime routes connecting Russia to Mumbai. Next one we can take example of BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa for the purpose of economy, political and security cooperation, including people to people exchange as well. And also the new development bank, a multilateral initiative expected to be rival the World Bank here, co-founding of the BRICS. Yes, next you can take a quadrilateral security dialogue. Quadrilateral security dialogue, Quad, is the informal strategic dialogue between India, USA, Japan, and Australia with a shared objective to ensure a support free, open, and prosperous Indo Pacific region and counter China. So, India's current foreign policy, if we take India's current foreign policy under the different platform, that is called as 5S. India's current foreign policy I'm talking about. The first S is about Samman, Samvad, Suraksha, Samriddhi, Sanskriti, and Sabhyata. This is India's 5S current foreign policy. Samman means respect for every nation sovereignty. Samvad means greater engagement with all countries. Suraksha means particularly security. India is responsible power, neither aggression nor adventurism exists in the DNA. Samriddhi, shared prosperity. Sanskriti and Sabhyata, it is about the cultural values and philosophies, beliefs that the whole world is a family. Vasudeva Kutumbaka. These are all the major current foreign policy areas that India is focusing. So contemporary challenges that we know, growing Russia and China axis that is affecting India, and self-imposed isolation of India, weakening ties with the neighbors. So what exactly India is supposed to focus on the multi-alignment concept on the recent times? The first area to be focused is that related to strengthening ties with the neighbors, particularly Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka. Right? In this context, the vaccine diplomacy is the focused area for India under its neighborhood first policy. And thinking beyond the geopolitical. What is my mean by thinking beyond the geopolitical? Because India's foreign policy agenda beyond the traditional thinking of geopolitical boundaries. So transboundary digital giants, big data management, trade issue, and disaster relief. And also G20. Now in 2023 year, the president of G20 is India. So we waving geo-economic theme with the geopolitical interest can be focused here. So multi-alignment approach preserving certain prominent values of non-alignment is good for India's interest in advancing towards Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So we do have multiple problem with India's multi-alignment, but we need to look into all the way forward that how we can enhance our relationship between other countries as well, particularly in terms of the geopolitical interest. Moving towards the next article, it is related to a small portion in your newspaper, but it plays a key role. That is a Cham Lama performance on the auspicious occasion of Buddha Jayanti. Moving towards this particular topic comes under your art and culture, GS1, art and culture, the folk dances of India, right? So, Cham dance. If you see here, the term name called Cham Lama performance. Cham dance origin from the Yogacara school of Buddhism. Yogacara school of Buddhism, which was founded in the state of Kashmir. Okay, during the 4th century by Asanga and Vasubandhu. Asanga and Vasubandhu. So they developed a sophisticated Vajrayana form of Buddhism which incorporated the Cham dance. Right, so from Ladakh to Mongolia, the Cham is the deepest form of meditation of the Lamas. The purpose of this meditation is for Lama. Lama means priest. Make a note of this. Lama means priest. To be able to free himself entirely from his own personality. It was started 8th century by Bhatma Sambhava. Bhatma Sambhava, who introduced Tantric Buddhism in Tibet. So he is the one who introduced Tantric Buddhism in Tibet to subjugate the local demons that were obstructing the building of the first monarchy in Tibet, Samye. It is an elaborate, masked, and costumed dance. It is considered an act of cleansing the evil forces. It is unique to Tibetan Buddhism and important culture tradition as well. So these are all the value addition that you need to know. So remember, this got more popular in the region of Kashmir. Okay, so charm dance. This is your concept for the day. Moving towards the next article that is related to WHO, World Health Organization, and also United States of America. I think here it is USA related to the human rights, what exactly they are talking about. US engages with India on human rights, says White House. So in the run-up to Prime Minister Narendra Modi state visit to United States of America next month, the White House has said the Biden administration regularly engages with India on the human rights, and US Presidency Joe Biden never shies away from having conversation on rights issue with other leaders. This particular article is talking about how they are going to focus. See, remember the human rights issue and violations happening in India as well as United States of America. So, what proactive steps that can be taken that US President going to discuss with our Prime Minister? Both India and United States have robust system in place to address the human rights violations and provide remedies to the victim who comes under this human rights violation. In India, these include the National Human Rights Commission, the State Human Rights Commission, and the National Commission for Minorities. In the United States of America, various federal and state agencies as well as non-government organizations that work to protect and promote the human rights of the people. Despite all the efforts, however, human rights violations start occurring in terms of continued basis in both the countries. So both government must take proactive steps to address this issue and ensure that all individuals are able to enjoy their fundamental rights. To address the human rights issue and ensure that all individuals can enjoy their fundamental rights. So what are the things they can focus? The first area to be focused is that strengthening the laws and policies, particularly to provide protection to the marginalized communities in both the nations. Second thing is about increasing accountability for perpetrators on human rights abuse, providing support, providing support and resources to the victims who comes under the violation of the human rights, promoting education and awareness about the human rights among the people, and engaging with the civil society organization. These are all the major areas that both can focus on the human rights issue. So most probably these are all the area can be in the discuss forum between United States of America and India by the time of visiting to that particular nation. Right. So these are all the important areas that you need to cover under this particular topics. Next one is about WHO says mpox, that is monkeypox. Mpox no longer a global health emergency. So what exactly the context here is? The World Health Organization declared that mpox no longer constitute a global health emergency. Right. So we'll see the background of the monkeypox, exactly what they are talking about. Remember this mpox, it's a viral zoonotic disease that can transmission from animals to humans and is identified as disease among monkeys. Hence it is named monkeypox. It is to Nigeria. Endemic to Nigeria. It is caused by monkeypox virus, a member of the or Orthopox virus genus in the family Poxviridae. So the natural host of the virus remains undefined. Animals known to be source of monkeypox virus include monkeys and apes, a variety of rodents. So outbreak, it was first reported in the year of 1958 in monkeys in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in humans in the year of 1970 also in the same place. 2017 Nigeria experienced the largest documented outbreak 40 years after the last confirmed case. And these disease can be reported in many West and Central African countries as well. So finally, now what exactly it's stating about? Monkeypox no longer a global health emergency because we do have treatment. We don't have treatment. There is no specific treatment or vaccine available for monkeypox infection. But anti-smallpox vaccine was shown to be 85% of effective in the preventing monkeypox. The world was declared free of smallpox in 1980, so the vaccine isn't widely available anymore. Currently, there is no global system in place to manage the spread of monkeypox, which each country is struggling to contain any outbreak whenever it occurs. So this comes a week after the UN agency also declared that COVID-19 is a no longer public health emergency for international concern, is highest level of alarm. So these are all the major topics that we need to give attention in terms of deep analysis. Now, as I said yesterday, the green highlight topics are also you need to give a little bit of attention. So I'm going to give you the gist of what are the areas that you have to cover in terms of the green. One is morality and majority. Supreme Court verdicts. Supreme Court verdict in terms of indictment of how regime change in Maharashtra. The first article that we discussed and second article, whatever we discussed here today. So based on that only, most of the articles covered today. See the Supreme Court ruling on Sena versus Sena, right? And also you need to give importance towards the what is the stalemate over the US debt ceiling. Just go through this article about debt ceiling of for the US and what are the consequences of debt default in the global economy as well. Next, again, same the jurisdiction conflict in running of Delhi. Okay, you just go through these articles. Next, about the violence in the state of Manipur. So the president's rule should be imposed in Manipur. Here they are talking about the emergency, state emergency to be imposed because the situation is still not resolved. Supreme Court's skepticism over Maharashtra Chief Minister route to power. Again, the same. It is about the floor test issue only. And governors can't play a role in intra-party disputes, says court, it regarding the problem related to the same state issue. Drugs and demographics in Manipur. A state government source attributes that the current waves of tension between majority of which community, Meitei community and Kukis, to actions taken by the administration since 2017-18 against poppy cultivation in the hill district. So you're supposed to understand drugs and demographics in Manipur as of now. Supreme Court reserves judgment on same-sex marriage case. So there was a reserve in the judgment related to the same-sex marriage. ICMR, Indian Council for Medical Research, Ayush Ministry signed agreement on the research. It's about the collaboration. Joint efforts will be placed in conduct high-quality clinical trials on identified areas disease condition of national importance with promising integrative therapies. So based on that only, it's going to be a research. So these are all the major topics that you need to discuss, or even you can make a note out of it and you can read these topics as an important topic of the day. Right? Stay tuned. See you tomorrow. Thank you.